This is where you feel at your most vulnerable, actually swimming into the cage with a great chunk of bait. It's a Diclyosteus! This is what we came for! Oh.
This is Nigel Marvin. He's a zoologist and an expert in tackling dangerous animals. But his latest adventure is really testing his nerve. He's left the safety of the 21st century behind and travelled back to prehistory. His mission, to visit the 7 deadliest seas of all time and to come face to face with the most terrifying sea creatures that the Earth has ever known. So far, he's experienced 3 of the deadly seas, and from here on, it's only going to get worse. He's about to meet the owner of these jaws, and worse still, the most lethal shark the world has ever seen. But only if he can escape the Devonian seas and an armoured fish called Diclyosteus.
He's coming in again, he's fast this time! Slam the cage again! This is getting serious. He really walloped the cage. Dented the bars there. He really wants this bait. I want to win the bet I had with the crew. This sea monster, I'm sure he can slice through chainmail. Look at that, he's coming closer. Oh, God! Nearly wrenched my arm out of the socket. And it is chomping through that, slicing through it, chainmail and all. And I have won my bet. There's a little Diclyosteus here, right underneath me. He's looking for little tidbits. These armoured fish, they flourished for around 50 million years, then all of them became extinct. Oh, wow! Listen to that. It makes you shudder. The big predator is crunching through that juvenile, crunching through the plates.
The Diclyosteus was certainly showing its true form. It's not just a predator, it's a cannibal as well. And as for its table manners...
Believe it or not, this is normal behaviour. The Diclyosteus isn't being sick, but a fish like this that feeds on armoured food needs to get rid of the indigestible bits, and it's regurgitated the bits of fish armour, and in this case the chainmail, and this is perfectly normal.
Normal for 360 million years ago. Maybe. But there's no time to rest on laurels. They've yet to reach the halfway mark in their voyage through the most perilous seas of prehistory. Ahead of them are 4 more ever deadlier encounters. Next up, our time-traveling crew heads to an era closer to the present day. In fact, it's a mere 36 million years ago, which is midway between the extinction of the dinosaurs and modern day. It's home to the meanest sea mammal that has ever lived.
This must be one of the squelchiest of habitats. Mangrove swamps, they're lush, muddy, and there's water everywhere, as far from a desert as you could imagine. But believe it or not, this will one day become the Sahara. I'm on the site of what will become Cairo. And if I stood here for 36 million years, the Egyptians would come and start building pyramids on my head.
The Eocene is the beginning of the time of mammals. They rule the earth, they rule the sea, and as I was about to find out, they even rule the bit in between.
These look really promising. Look, feet have splayed out just like a camel's to support the weight, spread the weight so they don't sink into the sand. But it's a really curious track. Look, they're widely spaced. Most animals, when they walk, it's 1 foot in front of the other. It's almost like this animal swings the weight of its body from side to side as it's walking along. This is really weird. So it must be a big animal that waddles along. Let me see if I can. Every tracker's dream, look. A pile of fresh dung. It's so fresh you can almost feel the heat emanating off it. The Inuit, it's rumoured that they actually eat bits of dung to learn about the animals they're tracking. I'm going to give that a miss, but oh yeah, if you smell that, it's a really sweet, not too unpleasant, a sweet smell. And I think the animal I'm looking for is a fruit eater. Come on. Keep quiet. It's the only animal that waddles like that. It is a surreal creature with a funny name. It's called an Arsinoitherium. These creatures have extraordinary horns. You can tell this is a male because they splay out. The females, they're much more vertical. And this is what he uses for defence and for fighting. He's got disadvantages too. Look, he's looking at me now, but he can't look because the horns are actually covering his eyes. He knows we're here, but he's not approaching or anything, not running away. He's edgy, but I really want to get a closer look. I'm going to try something, see whether he'd like to eat something from the 21st century.
Like a rhino, but this mammal is in fact more closely related to the elephant. More surprising still is that it lives like a hippo. Arsinoitherium is a sea monster after all, well, at least an amphibious one. There's plentiful food in the mangroves for a huge vegetarian like this, but living here is difficult. A beach in the morning is a lagoon by midday. Arsinoitherium, though, is adapted to deal with the changing tides. A creature that's as happy in water as on land. In fact, probably happier. The Eocene is a momentous time for mammals. As well as amphibious species, new types have evolved which are totally adapted to life in the ocean. Here were some of them. Dorodon, a species of ancient whale. And whales were the reason I'd come here, though not for these tiddlers. I was after a far bigger, meaner whale that eats Dorodon for breakfast. It was time to find the tyrant that rules these waters. We're sailing right here in the middle of the Tethys Sea, which runs between Europe and Africa. This is a pretty unfamiliar map because it's not like this in the 21st century. This sea closes up and dries up, and we're actually sailing over what will become the Sahara Desert. And this is the monster that we're looking for. Basilosaurus, that name means king lizard, because when these fossils were first found in 1832, they were thought to be giant reptiles. But this is in fact a primitive whale. Here's an artist's impression from around 1960, and as you can see, they thought Basilosaurus were very reptilian too, just like sea serpents or even the Loch Ness Monster. And this skull is what's chilling to me. There's no whales with skulls like this in modern times. Great peg-like teeth at the front of the jaw for seizing prey. Once inside the mouth, the prey is then sliced up by these big teeth at the back, great big cusps at the top. They are for slicing through flesh. This is by far the biggest predator in Eocene seas.
Drop the anchor!
But how on earth do we find one? The configuration of the bones in the fossil skulls of Basilosaurus is really good evidence that they can hear pretty well. Modern whales, they are so noisy, and we're hoping that Basilosaurus is just the same. We've got underwater recording equipment here, and if we can eavesdrop on their conversations, we should be able to locate where the whales are. Fingers crossed on this one.
Nothing, it's just shrimps and fish, isn't it? No whales there.
Nothing there.
Let's move off somewhere else.
Okay. Nigel. We've got something there.
Oh, that is spooky. It's definitely a whale.
Definitely.
And maybe we found Basilosaurus. The whale's still in the vicinity, but where is it? The trouble is, sound travels much farther and faster in water than in air, and he could be miles away. So what we need to do is try to entice him to us. That sound, that eerie sound that you're hearing, that's what we recorded earlier, that's his calls, but we're playing them right out into the ocean with a massive speaker, and hopefully he'll think there's another whale in his territory and come towards us.
Scientists have tried this with modern whales with mixed success, but it was the best hope we had of bringing in a Basilosaurus.
Getting louder, as loud as it's ever been. I don't know how long these animals are going to hang around. You've got to be fast on this one.
I had no idea what I'd find.
So this is exciting. It could come from anywhere beneath me, behind me. So I'm actually using the boat as a shield. This big shape here, it's as though there's a really massive super predator around, so they won't come in too close. They haven't got as big a brain as the modern whales. They're not such social animals, so they may treat a person as prey.
And there it was, the long streamlined shape. This had to be Basilosaurus. But it was nothing like the sea serpent of early drawings. It was a whale, but unlike any I'd seen before. It didn't have blubber. In this warm water, it didn't need it. It looked for all the world like a whale on diet pills.
And look at this thing. Compare it with the boat, that gives a great idea of scale. And he's over half the length of this 80-foot boat, 50 feet or so. And this really is a fearsome predator. I'm glad I'm next to the boat. I wouldn't fancy being in open water with this one. I wish the sound technician, I wish he'd turn this off. It's really starting to distress the whale. He's coming in close. He's actually bitten the speaker off. He's shaking it like a terrier, shaking a rat. So we've lost our speaker, but it doesn't matter. We had a really brilliant view of a Basilosaurus.
This, though, is a world on the verge of great change. The continent of Africa is moving north towards Asia and Europe, causing this ancient seaway to disappear. Basilosaurus will disappear with it. Next in store is the Pliocene, the time when our earliest ancestors were starting to walk upright. It's surprising what lived in our seas just 4 million years ago.
We're in Peru, right on the rim of the Pacific Ocean. And living out there, there's something terrifying. So if you're afraid of sharks, you'll be a gibbering wreck when you see what we're going to try next. Look, the most famous jaws in history are great white sharks. I've swum with those in the open ocean, but they're minnows in comparison to the prehistoric shark I'm hoping to meet, Megalodon, the biggest carnivorous fish that's ever lived. That name, Megalodon, what it means big tooth. And I don't think I need to explain why.
By hunting a megalodon, we were getting into ever more dangerous waters, and caution had started to creep in amongst the crew. There was disagreement about our next course of action.
I think we should head straight out into the deep water. The weather may change. Let's look for the adults.
I think we should start with the juveniles.
We haven't got enough time to do that.
Oh, I think we should go for the smaller ones.
We couldn't be sure how Megalodon would behave. Some argued that it would be worth studying smaller, safer juveniles before risking a dive with an adult. In the end, I had to agree.
I'll do one dive with the juveniles and then I think we ought to head out into the drop-off and try to find the adults.
With sharks, it's all about diving in the right place. Like young great whites, juvenile Megalodon tend to be in shallow water away from the adults. Partly for their own safety, but also they do prey on very different things. There shouldn't be any adults on this dive.
I'm hugging the kelp here. I don't want to be caught out in open water. Big predators, they don't like going into dense weed like this. The other thing is I'm hoping to find the creatures that juvenile Megalodon prey on. And they are the oddest of creatures. There, Odomonoceratops leptodon. That name is a mix of Greek and Latin, and it means the whale that walks on its teeth. And if it turns towards us, you can see why. One tusk is about 1 foot long, but on the other side, the right-hand side, look at that. It's about 3 feet long, and the males probably use those for jousting with each other in the breeding season, just like narwhals. Those slurping sounds, they are superb. Flipping heck, look! I can't take my eyes off that. The biggest great white shark ever was just over 20 feet long. That thing, It must be just 3 years old, and that's that size already.
Just imagine diving with a full-grown megalodon, 20 times the weight of this one. What had I let myself in for? We'd seen a juvenile megalodon, but we hadn't yet learnt that much about them. I specifically wanted to see how they hunted. We couldn't just wait around for an attack to happen. We needed to make it happen.
This Odobenocetops, it wouldn't fool you or me, but hopefully as a decoy it will fool the juvenile megalodons. If they're anything like great whites, when they see this in silhouette at the surface, they should come up to investigate, and it will enable us to learn a bit more about them.
Our dummy didn't swim as well as an Odobenocetops, but the young sharks didn't seem to be put off by that. After just 15 minutes, our onboard camera got the shock of its life.
Look at what's happened to the decoy. Did it hit it from below?
Straight up from underneath.
You can see the damage that was done here. It seems that megalodon has one of the same hunting techniques as great white sharks. What they do, they can't afford to be injured by their prey. They sneak up from below, make a devastating attack, and the power of that big fish, well, look what it's done to this decoy. This is obviously weaker than a real animal, real sinew and muscle, so that's why it smashed it in two. But if this was a real animal, it would of course bleed to death. Then the shark would come in when it was really weak and then make the final coup de grace.
Megalodon are probably relatives of great whites, and we now knew that the juveniles attack their prey in a very similar way. But what about the adults? How did they hunt? And what does a shark over 50 feet long prey on? Leaving the juveniles behind, we took our boat a few miles offshore. It was time to meet a monster.
Anyone who's tried to get close to sharks knows this eye-watering stench. It's the smell of chum. That's a mix of fish blood, fish oil, bits of fish pieces. What we're going to do is throw that over the side. There'll be a trail of odour which will go for miles in the current. A megalodon will smell that and start zigzagging towards the boat. When it gets close, we've also got this amazing delicacy for it, a great big bag of fish chunks, and that should entice it and keep it around the boat. And if they do come, what we've got here is shark cam. There's a little camera inside this. We want to get an insight into the world of the megalodon. I've got to get close enough to attach it to the base of the massive dorsal fin of a megalodon. It won't hurt the shark. This will dissolve in a couple of days. The camera will pop up to the surface, and then we'll find it and hopefully get some insight into the behaviour of the wild megalodon.
Sure there's something to the left over there.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain.
Look at that thing. It can't be anything else but an adult megalodon. It's more like a sail than a fin, and what we've got to do now is get the cage into the water.
You can see the blood and the fish oil leaking out of the chum bag. I need to be really prepared for this with the camera. We may only get one chance at it. Who knows how long the megalodon's going to hang around. I'm scared. Look, it's going straight for the cage. Oh, my word. Nothing prepares you for this. I feel like just shooting to the surface and getting out of this cage. But I gotta pull myself together. I must admit, I am really scared of this. Like he's taking a pass now where he's going to be really close. And let's see whether I can get the short cam on. Oh, missed that time. Oh, I've got to get the camera onto the fin. This is hopeless. This is harder than I thought. The fin is just too high. And he's coming straight at the cage.
I can't attach the camera from the cage, so I'm going to try from this platform. The chum ball, don't put it over the side. Keep your eye on the shark so you can get it in a line along here, please. And I'll be ready.
Do you have what it takes to capture a megalodon? Visit bbc.co.uk/science and test your survival skills in the 7 deadly seas.